martial arts self-defense workout. We're talking about 5 reasons why your cane self-defense won't work and what you can do to fix it. Excuse me. We're going to get into it right away, but I wanted to show you the one reason, the best reason to have a walking cane or to use a walking cane or a self-defense cane for self-defense, especially against a knife attack, multiple attackers. It can be a bigger opponent, street fight, whatever it is, for your safety, for self-defense, whether they have a knife or not. Having a walking cane, in this case, a Cane Masters combat cane. This one, you can see, has this bar right here, has a teardrop shape, and that allows you, when you strike, hit a lot more damage. It's made out of oak, it's very strong, it creates a lot of damage, and you can use this very quickly to defend yourself. Now we're gonna talk about 5 reasons why your self-defense cane techniques, strategy, whatever it is that you are struggling with, why it's not working, and what you can do to fix it before you need it, before you find yourself life or death situation. All of a sudden there's a knife, multiple attackers, bigger opponent, younger opponent, whatever it is. You have the cane for self-defense. You've been training with it, but some things will not work unless you address these 5 issues. Now I talk about this all the time. It has more to do with your mindset. And that's not to say that self-defense is 90% mental. I'm not saying that, because I believe it's 90% physical. Keep your body strong, keep your body healthy, stay fighting fit for as much as you can. What I'm saying is that if you make any of these 5 mistakes, you are putting yourself, whoever else you're protecting, at danger, at risk of not being able to successfully defend yourself with your walking cane. So we're gonna start quickly. I just wanted to show you this cane though. This is that everyday carry cane. This is the one I carry with me in the car. When I get out to pump the gas this morning, the kids are in the car. We're getting ready to go for a short trip. I get out, I've got the gas, the thing in the car, I'm pumping the gas, and I'm in a neighborhood where people get robbed, people get shot. Just about 2 months ago, that gas station where I fill up, and I don't have a lot of choices, and the price is right, it's super, super low. So as you come closer to the water out here, the price goes down. But right there, at that gas station, it's not the safest neighborhood. I have just a little bit extra protection right here. And this cane, this self-defense cane, this is not the one that I beat the bags with. This isn't the one that I practice taking away from people. This one, and hitting other, smashing things against, this is the one that I carry every single day. It's pretty, it's got those fancy eyes. It's got a little thing here in case your hands are sweaty. You're down here in South Florida, it's a little chilly today, but usually it's very hot, and you're sweating in your hands. This keeps it from coming out of your hand. And again, that teardrop right there, that is almost like a dull blade of a long sword, allowing you to break the bones when you strike with that slashing strike. And that's where we're gonna start. The number one thing, let me grab my training cane, just because I don't wanna mess up my super nice cane. I carry that every day. It's a nice looking cane. It's in the car. They've got a knife. You have the reach advantage. The cane doesn't bleed. It'll score it up a little bit, and then you just sand it out. But here's what, I'm gonna hit that thing, so let's not put it there. Here's the first thing that I want you to see. Out of the 5 reasons why your cane self-defense isn't working and what you can do about it, number 1 is this is a question I keep getting asked over and over and over. People keep giving me this illustration, and they say they saw a video, and I've seen it too. I've been part of training. When I did my law enforcement continuing education training, it's good to see you too. There were several times when we were practicing come-along techniques, arrest. In the Marine Corps, you're never arrested, you're apprehended. So if you're in the military, you're already in a state of arrest. So the military police come, you become apprehended, and they take you not to prison, not to the jail, but to the detention holding facility or the brig or wherever it is. Putting the cuffs on a guy. And so we practice all these different techniques. We've got the side handle baton, that's that PR-24, it looks like a tonfa. We've got, yeah, Kyle, I can see you. It's good to see you. You've got your spray can, the mace, or pepper spray, whatever it is. You have a lot of different tools, non-lethal, supposedly non-lethal choices before you pull out your sidearm and you have to shoot a person. So you need to take somebody to apprehend or arrest them or whatever. And you see this all the time. There are all kinds of videos all over the place. And I think one of the example was somewhere in Asia, a guy had a kitchen knife. There were a bunch of law enforcement guys. They all had sticks, and they're out there wailing on this guy, and he closes the distance and ends them all. Hello from UK. And so this is the first thing that I want to talk about with the cane. People say this all the time, and I've seen it. I've seen that PR24, which is made out of a hard polymer, a hard plastic. It's very heavy. I've seen it bounce off guys' heads, and it doesn't even faze them. It doesn't drop them. It doesn't stop them. It doesn't slow them down. And the military policeman or the cop, and you see it all the time with those batons, and the guys are just wailing. Sometimes going at the legs over and over and over, and they're trying to stop them from either getting them with their knife. Maybe they got a knife that's very dangerous, or they're trying to apprehend them or whatever. But the point is, the slashing strike, which is an effective strike, is not an effective strike every single time. And because it's not an effective strike every single time, if it's life or death, they've got a knife, you don't necessarily want to be depending on that as the strike that you do the most. So here's how you fix. So what I want you to think of instead of this slashing strike, these are all correct, whether you're doing it in this position, or if you have it in this position, or if you have this out and you're slicing in this position. All of these swinging strikes are good strikes. They're very effective. They work, and they don't work as well as a thrust, right? You just take that tip using two hands and you stick it right through the center line, going into the face, into the throat, into the solar plexus, into the groin. Now, if you're swinging through here and it's bouncing off of them, they've got so much adrenaline, maybe they're hopped up on some kind of drugs, which is common, which happens, and they're coming at you and they're out of their mind, literally, and you're swinging, and even if you're breaking that arm, they're still coming, right? If you take this, it becomes a different situation altogether. You're not going for that pain-causing strike. You're going for that distance-creating thrust to push between you and them, to physically, literally push them back. And because you're going to target completely differently, this is bouncing here, this is striking here, this is hitting here, that's into the leg. Even if you break that leg, they don't necessarily go down. You take out that knee, they don't necessarily go down if they're all amped up, right? But you stick that right through their throat. I don't care how much power and strength they have, you collapse that, they're going to asphyxiate and die, right? For self-defense, right through the middle. I don't care how big, how strong they are, you stick that there and you smash those teeth right down their throat, in through the nose, in through the face, right through their eye, right through the solar plexus, the groin, all that thin muscle that keeps their guts inside, and you hit them there, and you drive, and it's not about pain. This is why this is different. So number one, 5 ways that you might be training, and it's not that you're training wrong, you just have to prioritize what you're gonna do. In a situation for self-defense, you versus the knife attack, you versus multiple attackers, I want you to keep it as simple as you possibly can, and that is a simple thrust. Now, the thrust can be from here, you can go straight in with one hand, 2 hands is always best. Let me pull my bag back up. It's 275 pounds of water in the base. So when you hit it, you know you're creating a lot of power and you're gonna move it. So the first thing that you have to think about, we talk about slashing strikes, all of these swinging or slashing strikes, and you can hear that does a lot of damage. That's very effective, especially multiple attackers. You're swinging here, you're going around, swinging here. Wherever you have to swing, that's okay, that's gonna work. Learn those techniques, but prioritize. If it's a knife and they catch you off guard, you smash them there, but then immediately go into thrusting motions. So number one, choose thrust over slash. Thrust straight in. The other problem with this one is anytime you're swinging, if you don't swing here, if you haven't practiced a million strikes like this, most likely you're swinging more from the shoulder. And instinctively, somebody who's rushing you is going to close that distance. And you might be coming through, and they might just block your arm instinctively. They just put their hand there. All of a sudden, you don't have your swing anymore. If you're here, they've got to get around that. And they might grab it, which is fine. That's better than if they stop your arm, right? Because you still have hold of it. From here, you can push down. You can bring this over, the backside over the top. But these thrusts, I want you to do that. Number one, when you train, I want you to start every training session with a thrusting motion. And then you just make a mental anchor that when you see the the threat, your first choice is going to be creating distance and not swinging through. You're still going to learn that. You're still going to do that. You're still going to warm up with this spinning. You're still going to do combat spinning. But for fun, for fitness, for conditioning the body, not as the solution to the guy with the knife. You're not going to be swinging like this, saying, come on, come through. He just might. And if he does, and you don't know how to stop him, you're in trouble. So instead, the guy comes, there's the knife, you throw that first strike, and then you still have, from here to here, you still have a reach advantage over that knife. And you're just gonna straight through his face, right? Straight through the eye, straight through the throat. When it comes to staying safe, staying alive, it's all about immediate, direct, and explosive. Which brings me to number 2, okay? Number 2 is you hesitate. Almost everybody, when they get into a fighting situation, they haven't been there before, they're not experienced, they tend to hesitate. Even in competitive sparring or fighting, whether it's boxing or jiu-jitsu or taekwondo or karate or whatever it is, people hesitate. And all you have to do is hesitate for a moment, a second, I mean, not even a second, a tiny bit of a second. The other person does not hesitate, you're done, you've lost almost every single time. So what you have to do, you have to train the hesitation out. You have to adopt the principle of immediate, direct, explosive. And that means that as soon as that knife comes out, you're moving. You're moving. You have to train yourself, again, a mental anchor. You have to train with a posture. You imagine this is the threat. And if you don't have a bag or a striking surface, don't worry about it. You don't need that. All you need is your imagination. Here's the threat, boom. Here's the threat, boom, thrust. And you train yourself to say, okay, and you give yourself different mental scenarios. You're walking down the street, hey man, you're getting too close. You don't feel comfortable, so you get in this posture. And then boom, boom, there's that thrust again, straight in. This time the thrust is with this part, right? Smashing the face. And then you can bring this through and do your angular strikes. And there's another thrust. And then there's a slashing strike, creating distance. Using that hook, reach in and snatch them out. Reach in and grab and pull and rip everything off their face for self-defense, right? But that's what you're doing. You have to make the mental anchor. So number 2, hesitation. That's one of the biggest mistakes that everyone makes. I don't care the style of martial art or pugilism, fighting, boxing, self-defense. It's always the same. If there's any amount of hesitation between you or the other person, they don't hesitate and you do, especially if it's a knife, right? That nice knife comes out and you're waiting for the movie version, which is the guy's like this, and he starts slashing it. That's the movie version. The penitentiary, the guy just released from the 15 years to life, he got early parole because they're afraid that he might get COVID. I know, I'm not gonna get political. But that's from the news. That's a real situation happening right now in certain parts, in certain big cities, where someone is serving time behind bars for already taking somebody's life, or taking somebody's liberty, or hurting somebody, or taking somebody's dignity. Someone's already serving time for that. They haven't served their time, and the local DA, for whatever reason, says, or the governor or the city, you've seen it, right? I'm not making this up. It's a big news deal. It's happening in New York. It's happening in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Chicago. And the local guy says, you know what, if we keep them all together, they might get sick. Let's take the person who hurts a lot of people, let's put them out on the street so they don't get this COVID. And then all of a sudden he's out there and he's got one of these. If that guy, and you're probably not even gonna see it. You're not gonna see it. You might see it a little bit and you hesitate and you think, okay, movie version, what was that movie? I'm talking about the musical. I was gonna say Sound of Music, but that's when she dances through the thing and there's the Nazis or something. What is it? The Jets and the Sharks or something? I don't know my musicals. I apologize. I haven't been to New York to see a musical since the shutdown. Big secret, I've never been to New York to see a musical, even before the shutdown. Musical theater. There was a time we were like this, not anymore. West Side Story. I knew if I just talked enough, it would pop in my head. It's not the West Side Story version, right? You're not gonna see this, and the guy's like, a couple times. It's that guy brings it out, he closes that distance, and he's done, and he's out of there, and they count 38. I don't know why I always come up with 38. 38 entry wounds, 38 lacerations of all your internal organs, the things that you needed, that you no longer have that work anymore because you hesitated. So you have to work out. That's number 2. Get rid of hesitation. Adopt the mantra. Tell yourself, immediate, direct, explosive. Immediate means right now. Direct means that thrusting motion. Shortest distance between me and you is this thrust right through your face, and for self-defense. And number 3, explosive. And that brings me to number 3. I had them backwards. I said 2 and 3. So I'm reading my notes over here. I guess you probably figured that one out. Training without intent. The third thing that you're doing, the third reason why your cane self-defense does not work or isn't working or won't work for you when you need it, and what to do to fix it, it has to do with your intent. And that, again, mental posture. And again, I know I've heard it a million times. You've heard it a million times. Self-defense is 90% mental. It's not. It's 90% physical. You got to break a sweat. I don't want you to believe that lie and think, oh, man, I got the right mentality. I rip his head off. And you see guys like that, and girls. And what they do is they make the mistake of thinking that because they can get so angry, they can effectively defend themselves. That's not true. Here's what they do. They think, man, I got so, and they say to people, oh, he said this to me, and I was like, oh, yeah, man, I could have ripped his head off. Well, you probably couldn't have, because last time you ran a quarter mile, it was 32 years ago, and you put on about 50 pounds since then, and it's all cheeseburger weight, right? And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm trying to be honest. Don't make that mistake. Your ability to get angry does not correlate with your ability to defend yourself. There's no correlation, 0. One doesn't equal the other one. You just got really angry. You're able to get really mad. It has nothing to do with your ability to fight, okay? People make that mistake up until they're about 60, and then they stop making that mistake because fear replaces anger. It's bizarre. Unless you train, unless you stay physically fit, you stay fighting fit. But number 3 is all about intent. What's your intent? Training without intent. We said number 1 was slash, or instead of slashing, you gotta thrust. Number 2, don't hesitate. And number 3, when you hit, you wanna go through like you're trying to push that stick through the front of their body, through their spine, out their back, and into their best friend for self-defense, or whomever else is with them, right? Whoever else is there, you're just bam! Your intention when you train has to be, you can warm up easy. If this is your strike, do that nice and easy, right to the groin, right? You're hitting them in the groin, and then after about 10 seconds, harder, faster, and then bam, hard as you can. And then if you miss, it should like go fly in there and then boom, boom, boom. And you have to train with full speed, full power, like a ridiculous speed, ridiculous energy, ridiculous commitment to strike and go through. Yes, that was the Mike Tyson quote. I heard someone say, I think that was Tyson Fury. And I'm not sure who Tyson Fury is, except I think he might be an MMA guy. But it was Mike Tyson. It's definitely Mike Tyson. But that, boom, he probably heard it from somebody else. We're all recycling content. And if Iron Mike came up to me and said, even at 50, whatever he is, he said, Matt, I made that up, man. Don't say so. I'd say, you're right, Mike. That dude's still wicked, right? But full intention, going through the target. Your intent has to be there. You have to practice that way, though. The first time you do that full power, full speed, can't be when you need it. It has to be in your mind, in your imagination. Like I said, warm up easy, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. That's all correct. Go through, get in this position, thrust, thrust. Faster, stronger, harder until you're breaking a sweat. Your muscles hurt. It feels like it's going to come flying out of your hand. And then go faster, go harder, go faster. And every time you work out, harder, faster, stronger. And then if you have something to hit against, it's even better if it has more resistance. Maybe it's a stack of tires. That's even better. That's going to build that muscle memory. It's going to build that quick twitch muscle fiber. It's going to build density in your bones, your bone marrow actually changes so that, yeah, amen. Thank you, T. You have to have that, but that's number 3, right? So let's recap. Number 1, instead of slashing, that's good, that works, definitely works, but make that your second, make that plan B. Make that part of the combination that comes after that first thrusting motion. Train yourself. Here's the threat. Boom. There's the threat. Distance first. You don't know what else they have. You don't know if he's got a knife in each hand. You don't even know if he has a knife or not. He's closing the distance. Boom. From there, now you can go into the next technique. But adopt the thrust. Number 2, don't hesitate. I just hesitated. Adopt the mantra, immediate, direct, explosive. Adopt the mantra, the words, and then practice immediate, direct, explosive. Immediate means right now. Direct means shortest distance. And then explosive, that's that intent. That's that third one. Intent, the problem is you train without intent. You need full commitment on every strike. Like, you know, it's like you're swinging for the fences. Baseball coming, boom. You're trying to knock that thing out of the park on every single strike. Now, you're gonna miss a lot, but because you practice with full intent, you're gonna get used to what it feels like to miss and get back into your protected position. If you go and you miss it in real life, you're like, wait a minute, that's not what and then it's too late, right? You need to be able to miss and miss and miss, and then you'll start making contact, and every time you do, you're gonna be able to create devastation for self-defense. You'll be able to defend yourself. All right, number 4. Oh, I'm gonna get the other cane back out because this is really important. If you go to the first link below, you'll see this Cane Master's cane. It's at the bottom of the page. It's $180, $170. I forget what it is. It's really pretty, right? I'll show you, Kim. Because that, and Kim, your question answers number 5. So the 5th reason why your self-defense, your cane self-defense isn't working and what to do to fix it is answered by number 5, and that answers your question, Kim. But see that? It's got the nice fancy eyes, and it's got the fancy beak. And that beak is meant to rip skin and note for self-defense, eyeballs, and nerve endings. And I mean, that's nasty, right? So you have this fanciness. And then, look at that. It's got that long, hard ridge there. This is a teardrop. Teardrop shape means, see if I can get that off here. Yeah, so you can see it. There it is. See the teardrop? If it were sharper in metal, that'd be a sword. So it looks like a wooden sword, which means that when you strike, and this runs into their arm, it's gonna go through the flesh, through the skin, muscle, all that stuff, and break, shatter that bone. It's gonna crack the skull. It does do all that because of the design. And look, it's got this paracord, 550 cord for you military types. So it's just not OD green. Man, if it were OD green, I'd be in heaven right now. I'd be thinking about back in the day, it's in the shelter half. The Army guys call that the hooch, but in the Marine Corps, it's shelter half. Trying to get some sleep. You wake up in the middle of the night, 0400 was 4 o'clock in the morning. And you wake up, first thing you do, as you look up and you look for icicles, depending on where you are, or black widows. Black widows just sometimes, anybody been there, right? You see the black widows, and they're lined up all in the precipice, all in the top of your shelter half. Shelter half's a tent, because there's no bottom. It's just 2 pieces of stuff, and they probably have like solo tents for, I don't know. I'm just kidding. I'm not trying to say that the new military's weak or anything, but so it was like this, all the way down. But you'd wake up and you'd literally have to have a stick, and as fast as you can, you'd wipe out. If you were like in the swamp, like North Carolina, what's the Marine Corps, Jacksonville. Camp Lejeune, and you'd have all these, or sometimes even in the desert. In the desert, you'd also get this little tickle in your face, and sometimes it was a scorpion. But the black widows, and you'd get them, and you'd and throw them out the shelter half, out the hooch door, real quick. All right, yes. So this one is made by Keith Melton of Cane Masters, and the link is below if you want to see this. But here's number 5. This is, or number 4. Don't rely on fancy gear. This is fancy gear. This is $180, And I'm not saying don't get this cane, because it's a great cane, and I've got one, and I love it. And I like to carry it around. It's kind of fancy, it's pretty, and it matches my clothes, and matches my eyes a little bit. I don't know if it does or not. But the point is, you start getting more features and more features and more features, and every feature gives you more confidence, but it's a false confidence. They are the best. It's a false confidence, right? If you rely too much, and I learned this in the military, I learned this in training with some of the top trainers in the world. Go check out Pat McNamara, T-Max Inc. He does the, what is that, the Wednesday show thing he does? It looks like a cobra. It'll bite you, right? But he teaches combat shooting. He was a Delta Force operator, CAG for you military guys. Tier 1, if you know what Tier 1 is. Navy SEALs, Tier 2. Most Rangers are Tier 2. Special Forces Tier 2, unless you're still Team 6, that's Tier 1. That just shows you it's a little bit higher, right? Those guys, they're the door kickers. You don't want them coming for you in the middle of the night. Anyway, Pat McNamara, I took a combat shooting course with him, his Sentinel course. It was really good. You can see it on here. Just type in the Sentinel course review or whatever, look at my channel, or go find his. And just a tough dude, awesome dude. Great guy to follow if you don't follow, Pat McNamara. And anyway, he says it all the time. Don't rely on your gear, right? It's not about the gear. It's about your skills. It's about your basics. You can have the self-defense weapon with the, you're gonna have all that, and then you can have all of the thing that you look through, and then you can see through it at night, and then it's got a thing to make it a little quiet, and and it's got the little red dot and stuff. People do that. They get stuck on all of this gear, and then the gear stops working, right? And then they're lost because they train with the gear working, and now the gear doesn't work, and they're like, oh, I don't have any backup batteries. I got to go home. You can't go home. You have to defend yourself. I like this. This is the most basic. This is the first one if you look at the link below. This is the Dojo training cane, and this is all you need. Don't rely on the fancy gear. You have to, what do they always say, keep it simple, stupid. No offense to you, right? But keep it simple. Keep it simple, silly. That's in case we had any Jessies out there and I was starting to hurt somebody's feelings. But keep it simple. Learn thrust, intent. Learn, don't hesitate. Rely on your training, right? Rely on your training and then learn how to use the biggest, bulkiest, slowest piece of equipment you can with the most effect. And then if you have a fancy thing and you go fancier and fancier and fancier, that's all awesome. Get more fanciness, get more bells and whistles, get the cane that also will give you kisses in the middle of the night and hold your hand when it's dark and you're a little scared. Get that cane, but then for a backup, or even with that cane, make sure that it has enough features that if all of its special gear goes down, you still have thrusting and slashing strikes. Now, I know I kind of overdid it on that one, but I wanted to make a point. You don't need anything fancy. Use what you have, learn how to use it. Number 5, this is my favorite. This is to me, this is the crux. This is the most important concept of all self-defense. All self-defense. Martial arts is not self-defense. Boxing is not self-defense. Jiu-jitsu, even Brazilian, even Helio Gracie himself. Sorry, jiu-jitsu guys. Even Bruce Lee himself. Sorry, Wing Chun, Jeet Kune Do, Hubad Lubad fanatics. None of that is as important. None of that is self-defense. But there are principles there are techniques within those that when applied with principles of self-defense. So we're going to talk about. I want to talk about principles and techniques. Principles, techniques. Principles will save your life. Techniques can get you killed. And this circles us all the way back to the beginning, which comes back to this. He pulls out that knife. I go for a slash. He closes the distance. I never even get my swing done. Because I wanted to do this technique. That's the technique I like. That's the technique I'm best at. That's the technique I practiced a million times. But when the knife came out, I had to shift and say, what are my targets? What am I going to remove or destroy? That's a principle of self-defense. I need to be immediate, direct, and explosive. This is too slow. This is right in his face. This has to beat this. So you have to, instead of focusing on the technique, the principle is, how can I destroy or remove their ability to see, smell, breathe, temporarily, breathe permanently, move their arm, whatever it is, right? Yes, I'm going to show you that right now. I'm glad you brought that up because I have just the cane to show you. So let's talk about principles real quick, and I'm going to answer all those questions about technique because all the techniques are valid. There's no wrong technique. Back to the whole martial arts thing. Everything Bruce Lee did was right. Everything the Tai Chi guys do, even though they keep trying to fight the MMA guys and it doesn't work. But all the things that they do can be used in self-defense. But they're just techniques. The problem is the principles are wrong. When the Tai Chi guy gets in the MMA cage with the MMA fighter, the principles of an MMA fight don't match the principles of the Tai Chi in the park, 200-year-old, the swallowtail and the yin yang, and they don't match. They're not compatible. That's why the Tai Chi guy keeps getting slaughtered, or even the traditional Kung Fu guy. Or let's say you're the best Kyokushinkai, bat breaking with your elbows and your knees, or you're the top Krav Maga man in the world or woman, and you get up against Chuck Liddell or who's the guy on top now? You see, keep his mouth of the Irish dude, Conor McGregor. And Conor McGregor, right? I see his face every day. They pull in a liquor store and it says Proper 12 something, right? What is it? Scotch? Proper 12 Scotch. He's on the side of the alcohol delivery vehicle. So I see him. I always forget his name. I'm like, that's that guy. That's that Irish guy who fought against the boxer and lost. Because the boxer's principles of boxing are not compatible with the MMA. So when we talk about self-defense, martial arts is not self-defense. Boxing is not self-defense. Jiu-jitsu is not, even Brazilian jiu-jitsu is not self-defense. None of it is self-defense, but all of the techniques work in self-defense if you adopt the principles of self-defense. If you work in the principles of self-defense, number one, situational awareness always has to be number one. Pay attention, because if you cannot be there, if the knife comes out right here and you're not here, you've won. Because when you came out of your house in the morning and you saw the guy across the street kind of casing you out and checking you out, and you just had a bad feeling about it, and you thought, you know what, I'm going to call a friend and go with them, or I'm going to call an Uber instead of walk, or whatever. That's situational awareness. Make a better decision. You don't have to try to win against the knife fighter. If you don't have to, you don't do it. But then, situational awareness, you had to leave, and then all of a sudden, he's walking, he's starting to cross the distance. And you happen to have two canes because you use your cane to ambulate with. In other words, you can't, if you only have one cane, you can't flick it, you can't swing it, you can't thrust it, or you're going to fall to the ground because your legs, your body needs the cane to stay up. Get the second cane, right? You don't have to get a $200 cane and a $40 cane. Get two $40 canes if you want to, or if you're Mr. Moneybags or Mrs. Moneybags, get two of the big ones. You know, I'm mostly joking. Now, you're walking with two canes. When you need to and you feel threatened, you shift and you catch your weight. Your crook or the hook is facing out. Thank you. It's facing the threat. Ergonomically speaking, it's stronger, it's a sturdier position for you. Then you use the other cane. You use the other cane. Maybe you turn it around, you use the cane this way. You thrust this way. Striking. You can still create a lot of force and power using two canes. Yeah, I love that, Sensei Emmett. Good point. All right. Now, the second question. So I hope that answers the question of which way does it face out or does it face in? But let's talk more about the principles. We'll come back to that if you still have that question. Principles of self-defense, principles of cane self-defense. There are 5 reasons why cane self-defense isn't working for you or won't work when you need it, and what you should do to fix it. Good for you. Because usually when you do something against a coward, a threat, a punk, a thug, they're used to the victim cowering. All of a sudden you take that posture, you've got your other hand on the cane, and you're like, I will defend myself. I'm not going down without a fight. Back up. You don't have to like me, but you can't touch me. You can't tease me. You can't make fun of me. You can't try to hurt me. You can't try to take things away from me. Good afternoon, Wilson. Just by standing up to fight for yourself, most people back down. That's a fact. We know that, right? And then in the other cases, you're going to thrust. All right, principles of self-defense. Number one, situational awareness. Pay attention. When you leave your house, look around you, look up and look across the street. You're going to get out of the car. You get out of the car, open the door, look behind you, look over there, get out, look around the rest of the parking lot, across the street. Basic common sense, but not everybody does it. So situational awareness. Number two, right? Yeah, military we call it OPSEC, operational security. Situational awareness, the same thing. Protect yourself, protect those around you by paying attention first, what's happening as it's happening. Mindfulness training. Pay attention, that's all we're saying. Number two, get in a better position. Now this is better position. If they've got the knife, the stick goes between me and the knife. The stick doesn't bleed and I get reach advantage. If you are carrying it, now you can carry it both ways. One way is not necessarily better than the other, but there are advantages to either. And this way, the crook or the hook is facing behind me. When I step, if the knife comes out here, I step back, I make my body a smaller target. I put the hard cane in my bony arm and hand between the knife and my organs. Now see how much distance this gives me? That's a lot of, if the knife is here and all of a sudden I go into this position, and remember what number one was? Thrust, just straight in. You can take that other hand and thrust, you back them up, you can come in, you can push it this way, right? So number one is always the thrust. Number two, we said, train with, number two is don't hesitate, okay? You're here in this position, there's that slashing strike, there's the thrusting strike, there's the reverse slashing strike, that's straight down the middle, that's hooking across, whatever it is, taking the knee out. That gets us to number three, because you asked me which way do you carry it, and it comes back to the question, what targets on that person, on that threat? The person with the knife, the multiple attackers, there are 4 guys, 6 guys. One guy's got his skateboard. That's a real common attack these days with the street thugs, the, what do they call them? The anarchists. All of a sudden, you're in a better position. You ask yourself, what are the targets you can remove or destroy temporarily, permanently? Thinking in terms of hitting the head, knocking them out, that you remove their operating system. You shut it off, temporarily probably. Crack their skull open, it could be permanent. Their eyes, smash them, just that's that thrust again, right into the face. Now, you might not be as strong as you think you need to be, but this, which right behind that, that's a little bit of rubber. Right behind that little bit of rubber is a whole bunch of oak. And you're going right through their face, into their eyes. They don't have big muscles on their eyes. They don't have they're all jacked on their eyes. It's just their eye. Hopefully they have glasses and you can smash some of that through their eye for self-defense. Smashing the nose, all that cartilage, there's no bone there. That cartilage, that flesh, smashing that in. You've seen what the skull looks like, right? Smashing that, the teeth, those will come down, go down the throat. They're choking on their own teeth. Blood's coming up for self-defense. Smashing through their throat. Possibly a permanent solution for self-defense. They're attacking you, you finish them. Through the throat. These are all targets. Remove or destroy their ability to breathe, their ability to hear. Bam, right in the side of it, boxing their ears. I like this first and then follow with that. Follow on the other side. Go back to that one. So the question has to be, because techniques will get you killed, principles will save your life, is the principles good? Gary and I need to try to figure out how to get together. We'll get together, Gary. From here, thrusting, striking, what are the targets? Are you going to take away the joint, their ability to grab or hurt, break the bone on the arm, their ability to stab or grab or punch, their break a rib? That rib goes through the lungs, they're coughing up blood, their ability for self-defense, they can't breathe, permanently, temporarily. Those legs, the knee, the lower leg, the ankle, those, thrusting through the middle, right into the solar plexus, right into the privates or the fascia. So the question has to be, what are the targets you're going to remove or destroy? Number 5 is do not rely on techniques. Techniques get you killed, principles. So you have to learn how to, in training, switch. and practice, not striking, but thinking of target. Target, what's the target? Eyesight, eyesight, right? Arm, arm, ribs, ribs. When you do kendo, you know, kendo, I almost did golf. We do kendo, the Japanese sport of they have the jukdo or with shinai, the bamboo sword, and funny, probably, and they have the here. It's a bamboo sword, and they're wearing the armor, and you've seen it, and it's real traditional, and they do the deep bow, and they... All right, are we back? I don't know why it does that. It times me out or something. So maybe a new feature of, but I'm glad you're still there. All right, so thrusting, make the switch from what is the technique that you want to do, and think about it in terms of the principle, which is what is the target you're striking to remove or destroy. And then make sure you have practice that full intent, right? Practice not hesitating. Practice hitting them before they hit you. I said it, hit them before they hit you, especially if they have that knife. As soon as that knife pops out, boom, you're going, right? You're not waiting to see. As soon as they become aggressive and they start to close the distance, you're not waiting for them to close the distance and then trying to block. You noticed how I don't teach a lot of blocks? I don't teach you how to parry. I know all of it. It all works. I don't teach you how to catch and spin and twist and do the lockdowns and all that stuff. I know all of it. It all works. It's not about that though. For me, for self-defense, it's all about who can get there first. And you have the advantage because you have length. You have thrust. Immediate direct explosives. Shortest distance between 2 points is this big long stick. It's straight, right? It's going straight in. So make that shift. Think about principles of cane self-defense. What are the principles of cane self-defense? Cane self-defense principles are, number one, pay attention, situational awareness. Number two, get in a better position. Now let's go back to how do you hold it? This out or back or whatever. I don't know. That's a good question. That's a question for Keith Melton of Cane Masters or Master Gary Hernandez. Maybe Sensei Emmett knows that. I don't know. I haven't really seen that question before, but that's a good question. But I'm sure they would have that answer. If you go below to the first link, that'll take you to the Cane Masters site, my very first link on this description, and then bounce around that page and you'll find he's got facts there. This is crook out, this is crook back. Now, I like crook back practicing a lot because it reminds me of collie sticks or sword, right? But I also like this a lot, just almost as well. And that is hook facing out because you have all these quick, explosive up through the groin things. And I think, and this is just my guess because I could be wrong. I don't know everything. I learn as much from you as you learn from me sometimes. I think if you were using two, I would always suggest this because this is going to allow you to do this flicking motion right between their legs, and you don't need a lot of power for that. You just need to pull it up. And you know that can be very, what's the word? That can mess up their plans, right? Not their long-term plans, although hopefully it does. But like if they're coming at you and you're on two canes, you go hard as you can up through the middle, and that might even lift them up a little bit. That might be all you need to slow them down so you can lift this up and then drive straight through their face. Or here, and maybe your target is their temple. Maybe your target are their ribs so they can't breathe. Sliding in, striking into the leg, right? Keep it all low. That puts them on the ground and then thrust that right through their face for self-defense. So it just depends on which one. Yeah, I like that. Family planning assistant. Depends on, maybe you split them. You have one like this, one like this. You slide this up here, and you have these techniques. You have a little bit of Irish stick fighting. Your daily shillelagh, popping it up right into their face. We'll go over that in another one. Because you can use Irish stick fighting with your cane. The point is, none of the techniques are wrong. None of them are right. The technique that works is the correct technique. It's, when you answer the principles. So let's review real fast. And if I left you confused, let me know in the comment section and we'll do this again. because these 5 things occur to me to be extremely important. These are 5 reasons why your cane self-defense isn't working or won't work when you need it, and what to do to fix them. Number 1, I said, I want you, this probably should have been like 3 or 4, but it's so important to me lately because so many people keep saying, you know, the guy was fast, he was hitting him with these slashing strikes with his steel baton, the police officer, and there were 3 cops and they were beating on this guy. And the guy was so full of adrenaline and drugs, he had a kitchen knife and he still managed to stab all those cops to death. Those are real stories. And so instead of bouncing your oak cane, which does do a lot of damage, and that guy probably had a crushed skull when he was done, but he didn't know it, he didn't feel it, didn't happen, didn't stop him. So instead, adopt the thrust. From here, create distance. Go for distance over this. Do that 2 or 3 times, and then you can go to that one. But I want you to make that switch first. So practice this. Number 2 is don't hesitate. Immediate, direct, and explosive. Make that your mantra, and then train with the mantra. Tell yourself, and imagine here comes the threat, boom, straight up. Here comes the threat, maybe you're moving back. Maybe he catches you off guard, and you've got to slide back. Maybe he's coming in, and you step into it. But practice that. Imagine the scenarios in your head, and then practice. Which brings you to number 3, which is when you practice, you have to have the intention of driving through their soul for self-defense. Driving straight through their soul, entering another dimension with the tip of that cane for self-defense. And you have to practice that. And you have to practice missing and not dropping your cane and not losing your grip and all that other stuff. And then you have to not rely on gear. Don't think your gear is going to overcome lack of training. You've got to train. Keep it simple. Do the basics over and over and over again. Start with an everyday walking cane. Move up to a cane master's self-defense cane. Then move up to a fancy cane. But go in that order. I used to see these guys that would go to this shooting range, a friend of mine owned, and a lot of law enforcement guys there, a lot of military, and then a lot of old grandmas and grandpas. I'm just going to say it that way. And all these, because we're all going to be grandmas and grandpas one day, right? But all these, I don't mean to be mean, but the bellies were out there like this. And they come in and they had an arsenal in each hand. Looked like they went to the local National Guard Special Forces Armory and took out their top gear. And they had the most high speed, for those of you military people, they had the most high speed gear you can imagine. And they're wearing the 5'11" pants, and they've got the Oakley boots, they got the Oakley glasses on their head, they got the little ball cap with the distressed American flag with the patch, and they can take it off, and they could barely walk because they had let their bodies go. They didn't have, it's not age, it's that they had stopped physically taking care of themselves. And now they've got every gun that you can imagine, and they think that that's going to stop, that's going to be all they need because they have the best gear. No, it might help a little, but not enough. They need to do take your cane, you need to do a couple of deep knee bends, right? Maybe walk in place for 30 seconds at a time. Start to get the belly to go down a little bit. Start to get the blood to get into the joints and heal all of the inactivity for the last 60 years when they worked their daytime job. And now they got all the money in the world so they can go spend it all on the fancy gear in the back of the catalog of the NRA or whatever. And they need to be doing a couple of push-ups. That's all I'm saying. So don't rely on the gear. Get your body healthy and strong. And then number 5, you've got to adopt principles over techniques. Principles, number 1, situational awareness. Number 2, get in a better position. Put the cane between you and the threat. Number 3, what are the targets you're going to remove or destroy? Eyes, nose, mouth, neck, solar plexus. That's the sternum. Don't worry about the sternum. Go through the throat. Go into the solar plexus. Go into the groin. Take out the legs. Take out the knees. Take out the arms. Break the ribs. Targets. And then, number 4, it goes back to immediate, direct, explosive. You want to have full commitment. And number 3, going through your target. Adopt those. Change your training. And like I said, when it comes to techniques over principles, the way to make that switch, to make it work fast for you so you don't have to overthink it, By the way, don't overthink stuff. Overthinking kills everybody. Overthinking leads to hesitation. Hesitation is what's your problem number 2, right? You know what I'm saying. Don't hesitate. Stop hesitating. But you have to shift. So from here, you go into head, temple, eyes, nose, teeth, throat, solar plexus, groin, knee. Instead of thinking thrust, diagonal strike, horizontal strike, and I know I teach that, vertical strike, but you guys you're not martial artists. You're about self-defense. This is about self-defense. Change from technique to what's your intent? What's your desired outcome? You want to remove or destroy for self-defense, so you go home safe, let them get scooped up by the police, taken away either in the back of a squad car or in a van or an ambulance, or God forbid, better you than them, right? Better you go home safe to your family, let them go home to the morgue for self-defense. So that's basically it. Oh, good. Thanks. Thank you, Sensei Ammon. I appreciate that. Let me know in the comments section what I got wrong or what you liked about it or what you'd like to add. I'm learning as much from you as you're learning from me. This is a global virtual dojo, and we're all in it together. And that's not the same as the COVID all in it together, because we're not. Because Sensei Ammon's in tier 5 lockdown, and he's being whatever by his government. And we're walking around here waiting for the next couple days when some guy's going to go into the White House maybe and tell us all to wear a mask for 100 days. I don't know what's going on with that. I don't want to get political, but we're not in it together. That's my point. The gas station, the Home Depot, the liquor store next door, they haven't had a shutdown. They're not hurting. They're making more money than ever. Martial arts schools are dying. Gyms are dying. People aren't taking care of themselves yet. We're not all in it together as far as that goes. But us, you and me, we're all in this together. We have this idea that we can take care of ourselves. We have the right and the responsibility to take care of ourselves. So this is how we do it. Thank you. All right, I'll see you guys in a little bit. I just wore myself out, Russ. I'll see all you guys later in just a few.